It's the Cali Griot. This is going to be part 2. I couldn't put it down. You guys, I really couldn't. This is going to be a little long. Bear with me. Because I'm in a bubble. You're in a bubble. We have the AI that generates what we watch and what we listen to. So if we don't look things up ourselves, we just get information that's pushed to us. Now, I don't watch this guy, Joe Rogan. I don't watch him. He's not in my bubble. So as I was listening to him, I was thinking about slavery and what happened to us during slavery. And I'm listening saying, are they just like not thinking about what was done to us as they go on and on about how awful and horrible and evil the treatment was during Auschwitz, during World War II. And I just want you to go through this and listen. And I want to know if you are as surprised as I am, because I had no idea this was going to come out of this man's mouth. Be ready for it. It's kind of long. I'm listening to this. As I'm listening, I'm equating everything to myself and to my people. And I'm like, are they not even going to mention what happened to us? And I listen to Joe Rogan talk about all these wars and these atrocities. And he just passes over America and what we did, or what was done to us, as I should say. I still call it our country, my country. It is my home. Fair, unfair, evil. This is where I'm at. So I want to go over this Joe Rogan. It's the same clip. It's a little further in. I'm at 23 minutes, and I'm going to take you about 10 minutes in before it gets really good to me. Ready? Here we go.
Was like the Sith Lord. They really were. They were human beings who were doing some of the most evil shit that you could, it almost demonic if you really stopped and thought about it. If there were demons pretending to be people, they would do the same thing.
I mean, that's why I think it's a rabbit hole, because it's so hard to comprehend that, like, a culture of educated individuals in that moment in time that you talked about between World War I and World War II could completely become malevolent.
Yeah, that's one of the more disturbing things about the Nazis, was that there were so many of these people that they did extract through Operation Paperclip. Brilliant engineers and scientists that were also evil.
Right.
Like, those two things are very uncomfortable for us. We like to think of our scientists as being the people that are out there trying to solve the mysteries of the universe and provide us with the technology to make our life better here on Earth. Not the Nazis. They were trying to figure out how to kill people better. They were trying to figure out how to use rockets to shoot them at Europe and blow people up. And it's one of the more telling and horrific times in our history when you read, because it's one of the more horrific ones that we have footage of. Because we don't have footage of Genghis Khan. Right. We don't have footage of Alexander the Great. We have stories and tales of Napoleon and some photographs and drawings of dictators, past and present. But we have a lot of footage from Vietnam. We have a lot of footage from World War II. We have a lot of footage from modern wars. And out of all of them, the one that scares us the most, scares me the most, is World War II.
Do you think those scientists, when they came here, because this is I could not figure this out even after writing that whole book. Do you think they came here and actually thought about what they had done, or they were able to convince themselves that they were the good Germans, that they were part of it. Because I never saw a single bit of remorse ever. Like, no one ever acknowledged what they had done. So it made me wonder.
Yes.
I have to stop it right there because that's where I was just going nuts. Will the United States ever acknowledge what it has done to us? Will those educated, good-meaning scientists that created gynecology by using our foremothers for human specimens to develop gynecology with no anesthesia? These scientists came after our scientists, didn't they? After all the things that were written at Johns Hopkins and George Washington University, where they were using slaves for medical human experiments. So all this was going through my mind, and I'm saying to myself, how can they be so distant, not mention what happened to us? As Joe Rogan gave that list of atrocities that mankind has done. I'm just sitting on pins and needles going nuts. Continue listening. Tell me what you think.
Results vary, right? I mean, I think there's probably two people that go through the same thing, and one person has no problem with it, and the other person literally can't sleep. I don't know. It's a good question. It would be interesting to interview them. The ones who've been caught, who've been prosecuted, and who've been chased down, and they've got one fairly recently. They caught a Nazi like just a few months ago. It's one of the last ones. He was in his 90s, I believe. The ones who survived, they all tell different stories. And some of them say they just were following orders. And, you know, some of them say that they didn't do it. They're being framed. They all have different stories. It's
one of them. You know, you write a book about that, or you think about it, and you kind of you go down the rabbit hole, and then you have to ask yourself, what does this mean? Or you kind of, it's too dark, right? Yeah. And so I asked that question to a Auschwitz survivor, okay, who I wrote about in the book. His name was Gerhard Marschowski, and the reason he survived Auschwitz was because he was taken over to the labor camp, which was called Buna. So it was a rubber factory. And it was led by this truly evil man named Otto Ambros, who became part of Operation Paperclip, okay? Oh. After being tried at Nuremberg and being convicted of mass murder and genocide, right? We got him out, and he worked for us.
Really?
You got to read the story of it. I mean, it's just astonishing. Otto Ambros, right?
So they extracted...
He was a chemist.
Oh, my God.
Right? But he was... So Gerhard was at Buna, this factory, this rubber factory. And he lived, and I did an interview with him because I was asking him, you know, the flip side of all of that. And his whole family was killed at Auschwitz. And I said to him, what is any of, you know, we went through all these questions to try to get some closure to this or some meaning. And I said, and then we landed and I said, well, you know, we couldn't answer, what does this mean, right? What does it mean for today? Couldn't answer. So when I asked him, what matters about all this? He went like this. He lifted up his sleeve and he showed me his tattoo. And he said, that matters. And I have that image seared in my mind. I had never seen a tattoo from Auschwitz before, and I have not since. And it also made me think, because I thought, he's going to die soon, and he has died since. And then that tattoo's gone. So all you have is the exchange of information and people talking about it.
Yeah.
The eyewitnesses die.
How did they get that guy out of Nuremberg? How did they get them to release him?
Well, okay, so he was convicted at Nuremberg, then he went to prison. He went to the prison where we had all the...
They didn't execute him?
No,
I mean, obviously.
They executed like the top Nazis, and then a lot of these guys went to prison. So there was a bunch of trials. And so I went to the prison. I saw his cell. I mean, in Germany, it was intense, Landsberg prison. And then because we were sort of policing Nazi Germany after it was not, after the war was over, we were policing Germany.
I'm going to stop again. The Confederates should have been locked up and imprisoned for the crimes that they did. But the United States makes deals with these people. They had no problem making deals after they'd made the same type of deals with these diabolical slaveholders. It was no big deal to make a deal with the Nazi. Oh, boy. And then when she showed where the tattoo was, the number, the branding, and I'm sitting here branded with my slave master's name today. Every last one of the slave descendants, unless it's been changed, we are still branded with the slave plantation's name.
Germany. And then a guy named McCoy was in charge. He was kind of like the governor general of Germany. And the Germans wanted Germany back. And they were like, we're tired of you guys policing us. The threat from the Russians was very real. And so deals were made. I mean, I write about all this in Paperclip, based on the documents. And one of the provisions was, we want our guys out of prison. We want them back in society. And that was arranged. And again, you don't even know these things, They're like,
Right.
but that was, and then Otto Ambros, and they even gave him his money back. That was astonishing. And the family still has this villa in Switzerland, I believe, or maybe it's the Bavarian Alps, that had been in the family, which is money from, from Nazi Germany. And I called up the son to interview him. He was not as forthright as Dr. Blum's son. And, he hung up on me and said, if you ever contact me again, I'll, they have very serious privacy laws in Germany. I thought about going and knocking on his front door. My lawyer was like, Annie, do not do that. They have very different laws in Germany.
For privacy.
Yes.
Even if
for
you're
issues like
the
that.
son of a Nazi.
Yes,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I would imagine, look, if he didn't do anything, he shouldn't be responsible for what his father did.
No, but he has the villa. That was the point.
Right.
He had all the money.
Right.
Here we
and
go.
He got that money from his father, who
Here
got
we
that
go,
money
y'all.
from stealing it from people.
Yes.
During World War II.
Unexpected.
Yeah, like what happens there.
Yes.
But if you go back to that, like, we should really find out who had the plantations in America, and
Come
who
on,
benefited
Joe.
from that. Like, go several generations from there. I mean, you could get weird with war.
Reparations
with
are big.
Deeds where people profited. Yeah.
I mean, which is sometimes a reason why I realize in looking at these, in reporting these books, which is why certain things are kept secret. I mean, they open up a whole can of worms about reparations.
Sure. Yeah. Wow. Was Operation Paperclip, writing that book, was that one of the most disturbing ones for you?
That was dark. I mean, that was so dark. My husband.
Now, it was so dark. So dark. It would open up such a can of worms. Reparations. But she's sitting there. Her family got reparations, I'm sure. How many got reparations and are still getting reparations from black taxpayer dollars? We've paid twice. We paid by not getting anything from the pain and suffering and the torture that our ancestors lived through. And we're watching them lavish themselves in the profits from slavery. And they wonder why we're mad. I just had to bring it up. It's so easy for them to talk about just the diabolicalness of the Nazis. It's easy for them to discuss this, but not what they did to us in slavery. And every single group participated. We know who owned the shops that sold the seeds and charged the interest on the sharecroppers. So they can't say they weren't involved. We know who controlled the insurance money for the ships when the property was damaged or thrown overboard. That was us, the property. We know now so much. We know more about what happened to us than they'll ever know about what happened in in Auschwitz. And one last thing I want to tell you is our prison system here in the United States. Look at the design. Look at the architecture. It's designed exactly like Auschwitz. All of the U.S. prisons are designed exactly like Auschwitz. Think about it. It's the Cali Griot.